Welcome to the Living Your Legacy podcast.
I'm Kim Rain, a life coach and health mentor with over 13 years experience helping people lower their stress and anxiety, lose weight, sleep better and live happier, healthier, more purposeful lives.
I'm Helen Ranson. I've worked for 20 years as a self-employed psychotherapist and coach, helping clients of all ages and backgrounds who've experienced emotional issues, phobias and personal traumas.
The Living Your Legacy podcast is a quest to create amazing life stories, hang out in the moment and live a life full of joy.
Living Your Legacy is a podcast for anyone who wants to get off the sidelines and create the legacy they want to leave behind today. Welcome to this episode of the Living Your Legacy podcast. I'm Helen and I'm here with Kim.
Hello.
Following on from Kim's amazing interview with Nikki Owen in episode 6, where we heard about the shocking impacts of PMS on the life of a young girl, we thought we'd carry on this episode with a look at some of the other big players that get in our way of living life fully and being true to ourselves. We're going to turn to some of the basics of everyday living to see how they impact on our ability to stay on course each day, keeping our emotional and mental selves balanced. So things like exercise, diet and sleep all have a role to play in optimizing our mental and emotional health. Let's start with diet and exercise, Kim. We all know they've got a huge role to play in our daily lives, impacting on well-being. So why is it so hard to commit to nurturing ourselves properly?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And it's a question, if I had the definitive answer, I'd be a millionaire. I think there's so much information. I think there's information overload. But I think the biggest thing is we want to change our state a lot of the time. So we commit to doing things, but what actually happens is something else comes along, and before we know where we are, we say we're going to go to the gym, and then you have a bad day at work and you think, oh, sod it, I won't bother today. Or you say that you're going to eat healthily that evening, and by the time you walk in the house at the end of the day, you have had an absolute day of it. You've been making all these decisions, and just to have to make that one last decision is just too much. And so you go for the pizza thrown in the oven or the takeaway as opposed to, cooking the meal.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big things. I think the other thing is there is just an abundance of food. We're at a time when we've got more overfed people than underfed people in the world, and it's killing us. We're not meant to be living as we are. And that food we don't think of it. I don't think it's enough attention is given to the quality of the food that's in society today. It's addictive. And there is not enough put out about how addictive it is. It's put out about cigarettes. It's coming out about sugar now. The tide is starting to turn on alcohol as well. And like alcohol, it's so cheap and there's an abundance. And so therefore it becomes very difficult not to overeat, not to make those decisions. And, I always say to my clients, look, it's about bookending your day. It's how you start your day. And, one of the ways to start your day is, first of all, you have to have that intention in place that you are going to live a healthy life today and that you're going to put your health and well-being first. So knowing your intention for the day is really important, and then having the right fuel to start your day. And we can maybe go into that a bit later on in terms of the breakdown of what that should be. But ultimately, here's the thing. We were told by Kellogg's that breakfast should be cereal and it should be sugary and it should be a certain, and it should fit in a bowl and it should go with milk. That's been great marketing by Kellogg's. Breakfast actually is just another meal of the day, and therefore it should have the same balance with everything else, protein, fats and some carbohydrates if you're working out and on the go. But actually we've been marketed to and programmed that breakfast needs to be, the amount of people that go to me, oh, I couldn't eat that for breakfast. I couldn't eat, eggs for breakfast every day. I couldn't eat salmon or fish or whatever it is. because they're so programmed into that breakfast needs to be this huge sugar hit.
Yeah.
That
so planning's a great thing in all this, isn't it? In all these areas, in exercise and diet, it's about planning and sleep as well. It's about having our strategies in place, as you say at the start of the day, starting each day with that intention, and following through, and perhaps being very mindful that we will set ourselves unrealistic targets to start with. And we've got to curb that habit of trying to achieve the impossible. Everything we do, adjusting these habits is hard enough, but making them reasonable habits and making them so that they can become part of a lifestyle change, which is easy to carry on. I think we just make it too hard for ourselves.
I was going to say exactly the same. Weight loss is actually really easy. Losing weight is actually really easy. But we make it hard. We make it hard with our thoughts, and we make it hard by not setting those intentions and not having those plans in place. And, people come and they want a strategy, and it's really easy to sell a strategy. Oh, what's the strategy? How does this work? What's the latest thing? Oh, okay, ketogenic, high protein, all the different sorts of things that you can do, low calorie. All of them, they're just strategies. What really needs to be in place is exactly as you say, it needs to be the habits and the lifestyle, because it's the day-to-day habits that will build into the long-term results.
And I just think we're not very self-aware, are we? I think we've lost that ability to be aware of what we need. And instead we think of what we want rather than what our bodies actually need to keep us going throughout the day. And we're very low on self-compassion and self-nurturing. They don't always feature too highly on our list of things to do each day. We tend to come at the back of the queue, don't we? Especially if you've got a busy life, or you've got kids to feed, or you're multitasking throughout the day. We tend to come right at the back of the queue. And self-compassion is something that, we've talked about in other episodes about being mindful and bringing yourself into the picture each day. And living mindfully, I think we, need to do a lot more of that in order to make sense of strategies and putting things in place for the future.
But I think as well, when it comes to weight loss particularly, it's a really emotionally charged subject for so many people. And that mindfulness, it goes out the window because there's so much panic and fear around it and judgment. And we all feel that, there's a thought of like, well, if I'm overweight, it's because I'm stupid. There's a big feeling of that. It's like, why can't I get it right? And yet I see people who, I'm not surprised they can't get it right. There's health implications, or in their day-to-day life, it's just not on their list of priorities. It's just not very high. And like you say, that mindfulness can really help bring it into line and into the moment. But you have to set that intention of, mindfulness, I guess, is like a practice. And unless you practice it, to expect that you're going to be able to just call on it when you are standing in the garage and you've popped in for some petrol on your way home and you've had a hell of a day and you're tired and you just want to get home, and surrounded either side of you is an aisle of sugar and fat, which is, hedonistic combination of the two. And what you're actually standing there thinking is, I just want to feel better. I just want to change my state. I don't like feeling tired. I don't like the fact that my boss is a pig or whatever it is, or I don't like the fact, whatever, and I want to change and I want to feel better. And around you are all these like flashing answers to, these solutions that are going to make you feel better in the moment for a few moments. So to expect that you're going to be able to be mindful in that moment, if you haven't built that into a practice and you haven't exercised that muscle like any other muscle, is a lot. I always remember standing in a garage once, and I stood on this forecourt and I looked around and there was a big sign in front of me for, a coffee and a muffin, and this muffin looked absolutely to die for. There was a thing on the pump that said if I spent, if I bought these whatever sweets and chocolates, confectionery, I could get 4p off of my petrol. And to the left of me, there was another thing with a croissant on. And I looked around and I just thought, my goodness me, we are just being constantly programmed. And I watched this guy pull up in his car who I'm guessing was someone who spent quite a lot of time on the road. He was overweight. He didn't look full of vitality. He looked tired. And I just thought, I'm just going to watch him because I don't think he's got hope in hell. And sure enough, he walked out with a coffee and a muffin. And it's just being not just mindful, but it's being aware of what's going on around you and the situations that we're in, because we are being constantly programmed to overeat.
Yeah, I don't think we stand a chance, really.
No.
Yeah, which I suppose is why slimming clubs do so well with yo-yo dieting. That they sell the dream, and people manage it for a short space of time, and then fail and go back, and we get into that whole cycle of yo-yo dieting. It's not sustainable, is it?
No, and here's the thing with the sorts of yo-yo dieting and any kind of diet, passe, I explain it, it's like walking around with an elastic band that you've pulled into full capacity, and you're walking around and you mustn't let this elastic band ping, and that's sort of like the equivalent of your willpower. You're using willpower all the time, and willpower will work until you get distracted or exhausted or upset or what. And so if you imagine that you're holding that elastic band, it's all working, and then all of a sudden someone knocks on the door and suddenly you've forgotten about the elastic band and it's pinged off. And that's kind of how willpower works. It's constantly like you're pulling on this band, and if you take your eyes off it for a moment, it's very easy that it's just going to ping away. So it is creating, as I say, the lifestyle, the habits, and creating that awareness. And it's awareness is where it all really starts. Any sort of self-awareness of thinking, okay, I'm going to change my habit around that. I'm going to make a rule that I don't buy my food in petrol stations, that I only eat at a table, or I only eat from a plate, whatever it is. That it's looking at your triggers and understanding what's.
And of course, we're under further pressure with social media and unrealistic reality that's presented to us at every turn. On the body image front, we're not allowed to be ourselves. We're not allowed to feel good about the way we are.
No, and again, for me, the ladies, or the all clients, but predominantly ladies that I work with are our kind of age. They're sort of maybe perimenopausal, menopausal, and they will come to me and they want to lose weight. They want to have more energy and feel better, and they want to be fitter. And so they come to me, and again, they want, okay, what's the strategy? What do I need to do? And quite often, when I look at what they're doing, they are, following all the social media or all the marketing strategies. They're doing low calories. They're going for 3 runs a week. They're, maybe doing spinning classes. They're doing all of these things. And actually what's going on is they're just knackered. And, they're not eating enough. And what they're not doing is tuning in to their bodies. And that's the first thing I say. It's like, tune in to what your body really wants, because people come to me in kind of one or two. Well, I have 2 phases. I have a build and burn phase, and I have a rest and repair phase that people tend to come in, and those are kind of either end of the spectrum, and you want to be somewhere in the middle. And a rest and repair phase is someone who is in a rest and repair phase will find it extremely difficult to lose weight and get energy from doing the traditional calories in, calories out kind of method, of that whole, like, you need to get out there and burn as many calories as you can and eat as few as you can. And as long as you're in a deficit, you're going to lose weight. Well, ultimately, yes, you need a calorie deficit to lose weight, but actually it's the terrain of the body that needs looking at first. If you're struggling with your energy, if you are feeling really low, and a lot of women, perimenopausal women, the fact is, by the time they get into sort of like their early 40s, have been through childbirth a few times, or maybe been through IVF, or had, some sort of whatever they've been through there, but their body will certainly have been preparing and having the hormones in order for childbirth. And then you've got the fact that they've also been through adolescence. And then there's all the other things. They've run houses, managed families, built careers. been on school committees, blah, blah, blah. The list is absolutely endless. Tried to look fantastic all the time, probably gone crazy at the gym as often as they possibly can. And by the time you get to this stage in your life where your hormones are on the change again, which doesn't happen for men like it does for women, to try and manage it with those strategies is crazy, because actually your body is usually by that time like, I'm knackered and it needs something different. And usually what it needs is some nurturing. So, I've had great results with clients who have come to me that are doing all the gym, and they're doing the diet and everything, and they're either not losing weight or quite often getting bigger. And actually what I say to them is, you're not going to go to the gym for the next month. All you're going to do is go for a walk each day. And, we're going to put some structure around your sleeping routines and get you in line with the rhythm of your body. And actually, usually, it takes a real leap of faith for them to do it, a real leap of faith, because it's just going against everything they know. But when they do, they usually come back within the first week and say, I feel so much better, because there's no capacity. And it's not that they can't ever be there. I've been in that place whereby I've had to give up my exercise now because it just wasn't doing me any good. But when you can work in that rest and repair phase, you can then transition out of it, and you can go into what I call the build and burn phase. And then the build and burn phase is when you do HIIT workouts, and they actually work. You don't need to eat loads of rubbish, and if you put a weight loss strategy in place, it works. That's usually a sign that your body is kind of pretty much in balance and in a great place. You want to be somewhere between those two places in terms of what you're doing for exercise and working out. You don't want to be at one end of the spectrum or the other, but there are times when you might be more in one place than the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, just everything wants to be done so quickly, don't we? We live in such a fast life that people aren't prepared to go through this sort of process that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We want those results quicker than that.
Yes.
We don't want to slow down. We don't want to be told to go for a walk or to learn to relax our bodies so that we can get better in tune with it and respond to its needs rather than its wants. So I think all the time we're battling. We're battling against. Again, we're back to this programming, aren't we? Other people's programming of the way that we live our lives, and unraveling that and creating these new habits is so difficult for people without the knowledge.
It takes such a leap of faith, and sometimes it is saying, you know what, we're not going to worry about weight loss at the moment. We're going to worry about healing, and we're going to start healing your body, and we're going to, get your energy back and get you back in a place. And the truth is, Helen, they're like, great, what do I do? Where's the pill? Where's how long is this going to take? And the honest answer is it can take, I've seen it take a long time. I've seen it take well over a year into 2 years for some people who have, really struggling, maybe thyroid issues, adrenal issues, for the body to heal itself and to trust you again. And, for some women, and with Nikki and that, we spoke about it, touched on it. Sometimes you might need some I'm not into HRT, but you can have bioidentical hormones, which is a similar sort of more natural option. And it may well be that you need to go down that path where you let go of losing weight, where you let go of the aesthetic side of things and you tune into what your body really needs. Because once you get that going and your energy starts to trickle back and you start to feel a bit good, and that's when you think, you know what, I really love my body. I care about it enough not to put crap in it day in, day out. But when you're in that rest and repair phase and you're trying to live that build and burn life to get what you want, you're constantly giving your body a battering. And so you're your body will constantly going to want to feel better. And it's going to say, give me sugar, give me a glass of wine, give me anything to make me feel better.
We've talked a lot about ladies and the menopause, but I think for blokes as well, this rut that they get into perhaps more geared around pressure at work and the providing and maybe just unhappiness in that midlife area where they're sort of struggling to find their own identity going forward. Equally, they face similar pressure, don't they, to women?
Yeah.
They the,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
imagery and the guys down the gym, and it's very hard for any of us to keep that constancy and to keep that clear focus going forward. And it, as you say, it's all about forward planning. I suppose we ought to treat losing weight and bettering our health as a long-term program,
Yeah,
rather than the quick success.
and the same with the guys, like you say, weight gain and not being able to lose weight is not, it's a symptom. It's a symptom that something in your body and in your life is out of balance. If you are struggling to lose weight, there's something out of balance. There's something not going on, because we are not meant to be overweight. We're not made to be overweight. Now, there's a lot of outside factors that play into that, like I've just been talking about. But at the end of the day, if you can tune into where the balance is, then it's a lot easier. But yeah, the guys, I mean, I had a male client 2 days ago, and we were having a conversation around exactly the same sort of confidence issues that I have with my female clients.
Yeah.
And also, just what do I do? I've got so much information. I've got so many different strategies available to me. I don't know which one to do. And it's not a lack of strategy, it's actually what's going on elsewhere in your life, usually, particularly when you get to sort of midlife.
Yeah. So strategies, but, with the diet and exercise, small steps, planning, structuring your days, as you've said, making small commitments that are actually achievable.
Yeah.
Rather than being unrealistic and setting ourselves those targets that we want to achieve before we fly away on holiday.
Yeah.
Is the way to go, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, don't wait till you're in the garage to pull on your mindfulness to stop you eating the chocolate, and don't wait till it's 2 weeks before your holiday to suddenly decide you want to lose weight. It's actually getting back to, why do you really want to lose weight? What do you really want to lose it for? And, it's to do with confidence, etc. And then for actual strategies, if we start with exercise, there is kind of a hierarchy of fat loss when it comes to exercise. And one of the biggest things is movement. It's day to day. It is, okay, whether or not you agree with the 10,000 steps per se, it doesn't matter, but you need to be moving, and we do not move these days. We are very sedentary. So how can you get more movement into your day-to-day life? If you sit at a desk all day long, if you drive to work, and then you park in the gym right next to the entrance, go in and do an hour's workout, come back out, drive home, sit in front of the telly. Actually, you're probably not doing yourself. If anything, you're going to give yourself an injury eventually, because, it's, our bodies are meant to move. So movement is really one of the most, when it comes to exercise, start with movement, start with being active at every opportunity in your day. And then the next part of that is, the walk-in. So when can you just leave the car at home? When can you get up and it's playing footy with the kids? It's having, if you're having a meeting, could you have a walk-in meeting? Could you stand for your phone calls? Could you get up from your desk and walk and rather than sending that email? So it's looking at those things. And then it is looking at, when you're doing your workout, what kind of workouts that you're really getting. Strength training, building muscle is really ultimately one of the best things for fat loss. However, you still need that cardiovascular work to burn the fat as well. So it's having a good mixture, but knowing the right exercise for your body at this point in time. And some days it may well be that a yoga session is is going to do you far more benefit than a full-on HIIT session in the gym. It's tuning into actually, what does my body need? And if you are someone who suddenly, I used to see this all the time, the gym would be packed in January and people would be there, and you'd suddenly see these people coming like 7 days a week. and they do it for about 10 days, maybe 14, and then you wouldn't see them again until the summer.
Yeah,
and then they do it again.
I think I've been one of those for sure.
Yeah, oh, well, I think we've all done it. But it's ultimately not going gung-ho, but thinking, I'm in this for the long game.
The other thing that I've learnt about myself over the years is to make sure that whatever you do, you really enjoy it. Because there's, and that sounds ridiculous to say that out loud, doesn't it? But for me, I gravitate towards playing games. If you told me to go to an exercise class in the gym, I'd run a mile. Doing something repetitive to achieve a better result, running or hitting a better time would not work for me either. But going and playing a game of badminton, playing tennis, where I can socialize and have fun, would encourage me to keep moving. And that's something about my personality. And I think we forget to take that into account when we're looking for things that we can do to bring more movement into our day-to-day lives.
Well, I think as well, you raise a really good point in that community is really important when it comes to that feeling of belonging, that feeling of being a part of something. I don't know, but when I ran my boot camps, they were very much about, and people would say, I've always hated exercise, but I love this because I know that I'm going to come along, I'm going to see some people, we're going to have some fun. And, we would socialise outside of it. I go now to CrossFit box and New Wave, by the way, hello. And it's very much part of being the community. And actually, the other thing with exercise that can happen is you get really stuck on the process. Yeah. And, sometimes... yeah, you might feel like you're dying. It's not a great feeling. Your body is under stress when you're exercising. And so if you find yourself sitting at work or lying in bed thinking about, oh my God, it's going to be really hard, it can really put you off. What you need to be looking at is the outcome. What's going to be the result at the end? It's like, actually, let's move to the end of the class where everybody's high-fiving and congratulating each other and and you feel on top of the world. That's where you need to concentrate on, because exercise is hard work. And if you get too stuck on the process, it can really kind of stop you in your tracks from moving on.
Yeah, definitely.
Just before we move on from exercise, I just want to say, so ultimately the other thing is it's looking at whether you're in a build or burn, looking at if you're in a rest and repair. If you're in a rest and repair, and you know that you've got a lot of stress in your life, you've got a lot going on, walking, yoga, tai chi, stretching, Pilates, those sorts of things are really great workouts for you. And then if you are feeling more energetic, some kind of strength training, so squats and lunges, press-ups, rows, pulls, planks, those sorts of things that are going to build muscle, along with some what we call HIIT cardio, which is kind of like roughly would be something like 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And it's more the huffy puffy sort of stuff. So, running, jacks, skipping, burpees if you're feeling really crazy and like going for it. And then it's having a mixture of all of the above, really.
Yeah, really to keep a bit of variety going. Because I think boredom plays a huge role in people quitting at everything, doesn't it? From a diet to the exercise.
Some people just don't like exercise. I was one of those people. I totally understand it. And now I love it. I love it.
So when we've done all this exercise, let's talk a bit about sleep and that repair phase of movement within our day, which is equally as important, isn't it, as getting the body moving. It's allowing it to heal and rest when we finish.
I mean, we could do probably a whole series of podcasts on sleep, because the thing with sleep is, even as young children, from as young children, we do anything we can to get out of going to bed because we think we're going to miss out on something. And it doesn't really change in adulthood. It's like, if you can cut back on, I think people tend to cut back on sleep. And obviously it is even worse nowadays, because in my day, the telly used to go off at 11 o'clock and there really wasn't that much to do. The pubs would shut and, everything would close down for the night. So the whole country, if you like, would sleep. And now we live in this 24/7 society where sleep has become a bit of an afterthought. And it's actually having huge health implications for us, including weight gain.
Yeah, definitely.
We need to recharge. We need to recharge at night time when you when you sleep, your body goes through certain processes, and actually the body works on a circadian rhythm. There's a rhythm to the body that actually circadian rhythm governs all life. It's the reason, flowers are closed in the morning, they open up and they close again at night, and we're sort of not dissimilar.
Yeah.
And by going against that rhythm, we're causing real health implications. So, for example, at night, between the hours of 1 and 2 is when your liver does most of its detoxification. So if you pull a late one or an all-nighter, it doesn't all start further back. It sticks to that 24-hour rhythm. So if you like, you're withdrawing from your wellbeing bank account.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
you can only keep withdrawing so many times before it starts to show. And if you look at a child that hasn't had enough sleep, that you can't reason with them. They don't, there's no reasoning. They're having tantrums. They're throwing themselves on the floor, blah, blah, blah. We're not that much different as adults. We're getting triggered and reacting, and we overeat. And as I say, the health implications are vast nowadays. Even
what I find with clients who come to me with major anxiety issues is that sleep is always affected, and it's always something that we discuss. And I find that people put a lot of pressure on themselves about sleeping, so that the anxiety pattern around it becomes inherently tied in to the way they sleep and the way they go to bed and the patterns that they perform at bedtime. And, it's worth remembering that a relaxed state of just resting is almost as beneficial as sleep. So if we, in all the hypnosis practice that I've done with people, they used to say to us when we were training, if you can have an hour's very deep relaxation, it's as good as 8 hours sleep for your body.
Yeah.
And I always try to take away from people that anxiety about not getting to sleep, giving them permission not to worry about whether they are actually in sleep mode or not. Because, they build up a huge anxiety pattern about the number of hours sleep they've actually had that night. And they relate it straight to their performance the next day. And they perform to that expectation.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I don't know about you, but if somebody's having trouble sleeping, one of the first things I do is, have you got a Fitbit? Yeah, take it off, fling it, just take it off. Because I think that those things are actually can lead to more, like wake up in the morning, oh my God, I've only had 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Well, and I've actually had a client who took it off and she was like, I slept like a baby. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you're not, you're right. You've spoken to me before about pre-anxiety. Like you say, people get so anxious about not sleeping that it disrupts it. So definitely get your Fitbits off.
Yeah, and practice practice the relaxation again. It's back to that, isn't it? About practice being relaxed and let everything else take care of itself. You'll find that the sleep will come if you are in a relaxed state, rather than forcing yourself into that situation where the only thing you're focusing on is the fact you're not asleep.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is people think that we sleep through the night. We don't sleep through the night. Nobody would sleep 8 hours flat. If, it goes back to survival mechanisms. If you're out on the savannah and you fall asleep for 8 hours, the chances are you're going to wake up being eaten. We go into sleep patterns, and those patterns last about an hour and a half, and we go into a lighter sleep, and then we go into our deep sleep. And in that deep sleep, that's where our rest and repair happens. That's where the immune system comes out to play and looks around for pathogens and bacteria, all these little things that it needs to clear up, rebalancing hormones, dealing with metabolizing and detoxifying, and all of those things happen in those deep levels of sleep. And we go about 4 or 5 cycles of that a night. If you drink alcohol, if you take sleeping pills, you won't get into those deep levels of sleep. So you might be out cold for 8 hours, but you aren't going through those restorative cycles. But as part of that cycle, at the bottom bit, you're going to be deep in sleep. You then come out into a lighter part of sleep. And that's when you can sometimes wake up. And so actually knowing that and understanding that, rather than thinking, oh my God, I'm awake, oh, that's it, I'm going to be awake till the morning now. And bang, in comes this whole thought process and the overthinking comes in. And actually, I think sometimes understanding that, oh, right, I must be in between sleep cycles.
Yeah,
And
it's really healthy to have that knowledge, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think that the official line is if you're not awake for more than 5 minutes during these sleep cycles, it doesn't really matter. If you can just relax and get back to sleep, then you can class it as, I've not actually woken up at all.
no.
It's fine. So
And the chances are you probably wake up lots of times and you don't even know about it.
yeah,
But
I'm sure.
struggling to sleep can be the worst thing in the world. And I have had clients, I have to say, menopausal ladies who it's been a real issue for. And one of the big things that can really help is caffeine, getting the caffeine out, getting the sugar out, getting the alcohol out, because all of these things exacerbate the hot flushes and the night sweats. And if you're struggling with those sorts of night sweats, then actually getting those foods out of your diet, you will see a huge, huge improvement. I've had one client with whom she's actually gone to a homeopath because it was the only time I've ever had somebody who we really not been able to improve things. And she did have, her estrogen, it was an estrogen problem there. But for most women, looking at the diet can have a huge, huge impact on those night sweats and that night waking.
Yeah, yeah. So let's have a go at pulling out some takeaways for this episode. 3 big takeaways covering the topics we've done: exercise, sleep, and your diet.
What, three for each?
Well,
One for...
three that can apply to all of them, I suppose.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do 3 for each. Although, okay, so sleep. I have one of the first things, I get clients to do is what we don't do these days is we don't shut the world down. So I say, at 9 o'clock, it's looking at your night routine. And at 9 o'clock, you can shut the world out. So it's off social media, it's off gadgets, it's, you can watch TV, you can read a book. But other than that, no gadgets. Then maybe a bath or something. If you are really struggling to sleep, a bath can be great. And an Epsom salts bath can be really good, because what the Epsom salts do is they've got the magnesium, and that helps to relax the muscles. So just soaking in an Epsom salts bath with a good book for 20 minutes can really aid restful sleep. And then once you've done that, 10 o'clock is to bed, and by 10:30 lights out. And if that is something that is like, oh my God, well, I'm a real night owl and I can't go to bed till 2 o'clock in the morning, just try bringing it forward half an hour a night so that you don't go into thing. And then as you get into bed, the rescue breaths. So you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 7, and you breathe out for 8. And what that helps to do is to put the body into a more restful, or to put the nervous system into a more restful state. And I sort of say, you can do up to 4 to 10 of those. And quite a lot of people say they only get to a few and then they fall asleep. But actually, again, it's that practice thing. If you get into the habit of doing that as you go to bed at night, or if you wake up in the night, straight into those rescue breaths. And the other thing that I've always said is, quite often in the night we wake up and, not all the brain's functioning. We do tend to be in that whole alarming state. It's the limbic system. We're kind of like, all the worst things come out, all your fears come out at night. So quite often it's just letting yourself know that you're safe and everything's okay. So I am safe, all is well. Or if you wake up and you're thinking about your kids or whatever, we are safe, all is well, because you need to send that message to your subconscious. So we are safe, all is well, and just doing that breathing can really, really help.
Yeah, yeah. For me, another one would be just getting all your worries down on a piece of paper, and it's there for the morning then, isn't it? Things you're worried about forgetting. If you've got a lot on your mind, just shed it down onto a piece of paper, and it'll be there. It's there for you in the morning to pick back up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for exercise, well, daily exercise is going to really help you sleep. So, but having said that, if you do have problems sleeping, doing really a lot of cardiovascular exercise in the evenings is probably not going to help you sleep very well. So try and do your cardiovascular exercise sort of earlier in the day, because that can really wake you up and it can leave you feeling that kind of like tired but wired state, which isn't great. So exercise is fabulous for sleep. But, if you're struggling to sleep, don't go to a spin class at 7 o'clock at night or anything like that, because that will really kind of fire you up. And as I said, really, it's looking at the strength stuff. It's doing a mixture, finding something that you love. But above all, being active, or as active as you can, as often as you can. Don't ever take a lift, always take the stairs. Try and I was going to say try and get up to turn the television over, but I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to get up and turn the telly over in my house nowadays, because I don't think they actually have such simple controls on the telly, do they?
No, I don't think they do.
But have your remote control on the other side of the room, or just, if someone says this, I'll get it, and just up and down as much as you can.
Yeah.
And then finding something you love with that kind of balance in it.
Yeah.
And take time to recover as well. Have days off. You can't train hard all the time. You overtraining actually can be as exhausting, and it can be really overstress your nervous system and cause problems. So, ultimately, rest days are very important, and rest days can still be active days.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you?
Just make it easy for yourself in any way you can. Do lots of forward planning.
Yeah.
Shopping, you're planning meals, simple things that you can be in control of, so that when the saboteurs appear around every corner to deviate your intent, you're as strong as you possibly can be. You've got a meal prepared. You've got the food ready. There's a bowl of salad in the fridge. Just try and be prepared as much as possible, and put your energy in early on in the day, so that if you have points later when you're tired and a little bit disorientated and your mood might be lower towards the end of the day, your resolve isn't going to go.
Yeah.
Work on staying relaxed as much as possible, because everything is easier when you're relaxed, whether you're sleeping, whether you're facing, food cravings, or whether you're facing exercise. Everything is easier if you're doing it feeling as good as you can do, and as relaxed and as stress-free as you can. So working on your relaxation all the time, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's it really for me. And just not worrying that, you're not breaking those habits too quickly, because they've been there for a long time, and accepting that we're not totally in control of the way we behave a lot of the time. We're being so influenced by external factors that, it's not about us failing. If we have a day that goes slightly wrong, forget about it. Start again the next day, new page in the notebook, start fresh, and carry on, and try to eliminate that sense of disappointment and self failure, because it's a tough ask.
Yeah, I think that actually, on my online program, which is really based on women who have tried everything and can't lose weight, and they come along and we get them losing weight, and the big thing that changes, the only thing that we really change, because they've got all the strategies, I'm sure that everybody listening right now could tell you at least 10 ways that they could be losing weight. What we change is their belief that they can do it.
Yeah.
So, it is celebrating your wins. One thing I will say, just on a practical level, with your nutrition, what I do see is that most people these days are eating way too much carbohydrate, way too much carbohydrate. And they're not eating anywhere near enough protein and anywhere near enough good fats. So when I'm talking about protein, I'm talking about eggs and fish and meat and chicken. And when I'm talking about fats, I'm talking about avocados, olive oil, all of those sorts, and even the saturated fats, fats from good, healthy animals. So if you're going to eat animal fat, you want to know that it's come from an animal that's, been raised, maybe grass-fed or free range, at least, ideally organic, because, fat is where our toxins are held. So if you're eating animal fat of an animal that is been raised and reared factory farming style, then you're going to be eating a lot of their toxins, and you don't want that in your body, and they're going to make you overweight. But so looking at that, and then really looking at your carbohydrates, because we are just carb crazy nowadays. They are fast, they are cheap, they are easy to get hold of, And 9 times out of 10, if you go into most coffee shops, garages, lots of places, what you're actually going to be faced with is a lot of carbohydrates. And those do cause that whole blood sugar thing in your body that just make you want to eat more.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, most people that come to me are actually, we can make some great changes just by lowering their carbohydrates. And whether that's, you know, there's all different ways of doing that. And you can go to the extreme, to the ketogenic end of things. But actually, for a lot of people, just kind of like around between 150 to 100 grams a day, depending on your activity levels, is a great place to start. And when I say that, I don't mean in weight, I mean in actual carbohydrate content in the food. So my Fitness Pal is something that can be quite good, not to be tracking your calories forevermore, but to be learning about actually what sort of foods that you are eating, and to stay away from the bread and the pasta and the potatoes, and to have those as kind of a treat, you know, as something to, and think of those as the side dish. And actually that your most biggest part of your plate or your snack are vegetables, green leafy vegetables, as many different varieties you can have, and just make it a thing that each day you are going to see how many vegetables you can eat.
Yeah.
With small amounts of protein, and with nice, good amounts of protein, healthy protein. And, you know, use the olive oil instead of covering it with, I don't know, sugary chili sauce dressing or brown sauce or tomato ketchup or something. Use good quality olive oil, salt, pepper, and a bit of vinegar. It tastes delicious. So just, yeah, that's on a more sort of practical level. Just really kind of look at how your plate looks and aim to get as many veggies in as possible. Because I always talk to people about life force food. Has your food got a life force to it? You know, has it been alive at some point? Either it's grown in the ground or it's had eyes. And if not, then it's probably not got many antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and all of the things that we really need to survive and to thrive. So get the brown beige stuff out of your diet.
Okay. So I think that's it for this one.
Yeah.
Look forward to episode 8. If you've enjoyed listening, subscribe and share and tell all your friends about it.
Tell everyone about it.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Take care. Thanks, Helen.
Bye. So that's all for now. Go away, enjoy the rest of your day, and have a good think about it. We hope you enjoyed the Living Your Legacy podcast. If you did, subscribe and come back for the next one. If you didn't, well, there's no accounting for taste.